Well, the Rugby Championship got off to an absolute flyer with Australia winning in South Africa. My thoughts on that are just up there. But could Argentina and New Zealand serve up anything close to that? Hello, amateurs. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be here with you throughout the Rugby Championship and beyond, so hit subscribe to follow along. Now then, this game was played in Cordoba in a big stadium. So often in Argentina, we've seen them like in quite small, compact stadiums, but this was 55,000 people and it looked like a heck of an atmosphere. Those Argentina fans are some of my favourite rugby fans on the planet after spending time with them at the Rugby World Cup in 2023. That's when it was, only a couple of years ago. The All Blacks wanted to start this game fast because they wanted to get on top of that crowd and quieten them down, and they absolutely did that. The opening 20 minutes of this game were fast and physical. There was so much skill and timing on view from both teams. They both wanted to play. They were both looking for the offloads and for the extra pass, and for a lot of the opening 20 minutes, it was looking good, and I was so excited how this game was shaping up. Beauden Barrett got an early penalty to slightly quiet the crowd, and then the All Blacks really went through their phases, which ended up with a try for Severin Rees in the corner after 9 minutes. There was a beautiful pass from Will Jordan, but on the build-up to that, Fletcher Newell looked like he got almost his entire body over the line and somehow declined to score. Maybe Severin Rees has dropped him some New Zealand dollars or something like that. But anyway, 10-0 after 9 minutes, and both teams were trying to play, but New Zealand were just the more clinical at this point. However, Argentina, like I've said, they were trying to play, and some of the passing was really sharp and accurate. Some of their back play looked so good, but they just couldn't finish things off. They couldn't quite get that extra pass or get the running line right. And credit must go to the All Blacks defence here, because there was a lot of pressure put on by them, and they were getting up in faces and pressuring passes and making it difficult for the Argentinians. But Argentina did get the next score, which was great for the game. Isgro getting over in the right corner. This move started with a chip over the top. Again, a great way to beat an oncoming defence. Chocobares, who is one of my favourite players. He's so powerful, such intelligent running lines. He got onto that. The Argentinians then went really, into goal line attack, basically driving hard, heads down, driving hard. And they were so head down that at one point there was a spot on the far side of the ruck where there wasn't a single New Zealand defender, I want to say, for 20 metres, not even a guard in place, and they were about a metre from the line. If they'd seen that Argentina, they would have walked over, but they couldn't get the ball to that space. They did, however, get it to Isgro in the corner, who pretty much dived over untouched, I think. So 7-10 after 15 minutes, and the game was absolutely on at that point. What followed then was probably the dumbest yellow card of the year so far. I mean, there's been some contenders, but this one's pretty. Mako Vivas literally leant over a very visible ruck and slapped the ball out of Cortez Ratima's hands. Yeah, yellow card, off he went, and that left a little bit of extra space, obviously, on the pitch for the Kiwis. They capitalised after a bit of absolute class from Will Jordan. He gave the pass to Rees for the first try, and it was him who stepped through. They just got a defence that was drifting a little bit disconnected, and there's nobody better, I don't think, in world rugby than Will Jordan spotting that, putting on the step, flying through, because he's got the pace to go with it as well. And he had Ratima on the inside doing the classic scrum half line. 17-7, and the All Blacks were very much deserving of this lead at the time. But this is when the game kind of, around about this area, probably after that yellow card, to be honest, the game got really scrappy. Like, both teams, that I said many times already, were trying to play, but both defences were really aggressive as well. So there was lots of forced errors, but there were lots of bits where the timing just wasn't quite right. It looked like the first game of a tournament in lots of ways. So the game did kind of deteriorate a little bit, and there were plenty of scrums, which New Zealand really were on top of for the most of the time. That Argentinian tight end Delgado is a massive lump of meat, but he just got caught a little high times, and the Kiwi scrum looked much more tight and connected, and De Groot is one of the most destructive looseheads on the planet, so they got some joy from that. Argentina did get back into the game a little bit closer with a penalty from Arbonoz, I thought he was outstanding on the night. Some of his passing, we'll get onto some other things later on. He was an excellent performance for the Argentinians. This was for a late tackle from Ioane, and this was a really tough call. I think it's a very marginal one, a very interesting point of law, because the Argentinian player had attempted to catch the ball, so you could argue that therefore he is in possession when Ioane tackled him, but it was so far after that he touched the ball that Ioane kind of had time to pull out as well. It's a very tricky one, this, in terms of law. I think you just have to go with what the referee feels is the right call, and you can't argue with it at all, I don't think. Although you also feel sorry for Rico Ioane as well, because in some ways he didn't do anything wrong. There was what looked like a nasty injury for Marcus Kramer afterwards. He went into a tackle and kind of got bent backwards over his own leg, and it's one that can just pop knee ligaments or ankle ligaments. This was an ankle, and the substitute got warmed up straight away, because I think when you see it in real time, you're like, how can anybody carry on after that? But Kramer, being the animal that he is, got it taped up and then went on to have a very, very strong game. The All Blacks found a seam of interest at the driving maul. Ardi Sarvea getting over for the try on 37 minutes. This will come back later in the game, because this driving maul try, it just looked too easy. It looked like the Kiwis did all the things that they had to do, but it just looked like it was too easy for them to get over. 24-10, and that's looking like a very solid half-time score for the effort that they put in. But the All Blacks, after winning a scrum penalty, again, De Groot doing a great job, had the opportunity to then kick for field position. They won the line out and they played and drove. This was after the final hooter for the halftime whistle, by the way. So they could have easily just gone 24-10, that will do us, but they did not. They kept on going and got Severis over for his second try and a halftime lead of 31-10. That's a big halftime lead. That's 21 points. It's not quite as big as 22 points, though, which the Australians came back from earlier in the day. So in my heart of hearts, I was thinking, come on, Argentina, get back into this one. Let's have another incredible, dramatic game. And they started off so well. Albornoz getting over for a try. Jordy Barrett with a rare missed tackle, but Albornoz is so thick through the hips. He's one of those players who just seems like difficult to tackle, and you've got to sort of get it dead right with him. 17-31. Matera was absolutely charging for a tap penalty. He was his fearsome best in this game. I love it when he's snorting and he's going like that, and he ran up, which led to a yellow card for Proctor for an offence at the ruck, and Argentina had huge momentum and they tried for several moments, but they just couldn't take advantage of that yellow card immediately. However, 64 minutes and Oviedo got over for a try by the posts, and it's 24-31, game on, back within a point, within a score, and I was like, come on, let's have a really dramatic ending to this game. In the run-up to that Oviedo try, there was an incredible tackle by Paddy Tuipulotu. I can't remember which Argentinian it was, but he looked sure to score. Somebody got him around the ankles, and it looked like he was just going to reach over, and Tuipulotu came in and somehow got him back over the line. But like I say, Oviedo scored in the following phase or something like that. This is where New Zealand took control of the game, though. I was hoping that Argentina would maybe get another break, manage to maintain this pressure, create some more excitement in the crowd. But the All Blacks, I mentioned them all earlier and how easy they found it. So that indicates like a certain amount of forward dominance, and the All Blacks just tightened their game down. They started playing zigzag rugby, left, right, left, right, left, right, using the forwards to drive forward, and they were getting joy from that and eventually winning penalties, which led to kicks to corner, line-outs and mauls. And it didn't come straight away. They had a really good-looking maul going towards the line, and that man Albornoz was the guy who came in, and I think he stopped. I think it was about 3 All Blacks on the splinter, and it was Albornoz with a brilliant defensive maul moment there. But the All Blacks continued the pressure. They got more penalties. They continued to kick for the corner, and Takiaho got over for 2 tries in the next 5 minutes. And that was the game, 24-41. It was just so interesting after a game that started so fast and frantic. The Kiwis worked out that actually driving play was where they had a really big advantage in this game. They tightened everything up at the end, went for it, and eventually ran out. Very deserving 24-41 winners. But this was another really good, interesting game. There was a late yellow card for Anton Leonard-Brown for a high shot on Chocobaras. Again, this is one of those that these are the ones that we're really trying to get out of the game. You know, both players very upright. It looked like Leonard Brown came off worse as he literally hit Chocoboros with his face. If the game was tighter, what happened in the very last play could have been interesting, because Geordie Barrett went to kick the ball off the park and it hit the corner flag. It did actually go off the pitch, but that could have led to another score. All in all, a fantastic start to the Rugby Championship. This game had moments where it looked really, really good, but just the little detail, just the lack of quality at times, the drop passes meant it was a little bit stunted, but overall, I did really enjoy this game. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Any players that I didn't mention that you thought maybe really had a big influence in this game? Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. If you don't mind, it helps other great rugby fans just like you find it. And you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And don't forget to get out and play.